So as I'm sure you've gathered and probably heard, dating in your mid-30s is some of the darkest shit you'll ever. I'm talking like bottom of the barrel shit. Like it's really fucking rough. And the thing that nobody tells you is that you start lowering your standards without even noticing it. Like I remember the year all my friends started being into bald guys. I think it was like the summer of 2017 or something. But like it was okay. Like they were like super into it, so like it was like cool. But like if you're in your like early 20s and your friend says like I'm dating a bald guy, you're like oh Asia. But if you're 35, you're like oh does he have a 401k? Can he communicate his feelings? Does he have a place to live? Does he have an actual bed? Does it need to inflate? Like it's so like fantastic, man. You know, like standard shit. And it starts happening quickly and it starts happening really without you like really grasping it. At a certain point you're like you stop like asking like are they hot? And you're like, do they have all their limbs? And it better be a fucking good story. And before you guys like get all offended or anything, like one of my friends did go on a date with a guy who had one leg. Bit of a dick, if I'm honest. Motorcycle accident. But it wasn't the one leg we were talking about. It was the fact that he was using a fake $100 bill to tip like, as a joke. Like, in this economy, like, God, that's just fucking mean, you know? Like, it's just the truth is, I'm a lesbian, so it's been a glorious decade of not dating men, but I'm not a gold star. I'm not. I have been with men, unfortunately. And I've only experienced them for a short while, but my friends have really, really been through it. And I've been with them in the trenches, through the streets of Hollywood, in heels, the club scene. That was real shit, you know? One time one of my friends pierced my ear in the bathroom. Like, that was like, I was like, I need hoops! She was like, okay! And she gave it to hers and we lit it. Anyways, it was fun. We outlasted the birth of online dating, the harmony of HeyCupid, we persisted through dating apps, run clubs, jujitsu. Jujitsu's a thing. The girlies are getting into jujitsu, so I'm just saying, like, it's physical contact. Get really into it. That's what I've heard. I'm not there yet. Comedy shows, farmers, you know, so like if there's any place that like a single woman can meet a man, one of my friends has done it. And yeah, it's honestly been fucking rough. I'm not gonna lie. And at least every woman has a story where you just look off into the distance and you say, girl. Oh. And it's not a happy girl, it's not an excited girl, it's not a hopeful girl, it's a haunted. You did what, girl? So when my best friend called me the other day and she says, I need to tell you about my date last night. You guys know, I was sat, I was seated, my phone was plugged in, my feet were up. This is, as they say, my Roman Empire. And I was like, all right, you know, there comes a point when every woman asks herself, is this white man? And I don't mean to pick on you. I don't. We love you. Is he balding all natural? Or is he shaving it? Or a more specific preference? You know? Like, does he not to judge. You can't jump to conclusions. You know, maybe he's awkward. Maybe he's really nervous. Maybe he's just really into Ancestry.com. You know, you gotta give people grace, because if every woman left after the first weird thing a man said, the species would die out. And as a lesbian, I also listen and I specifically in this topic. You know, I'm an observer, I'm a researcher, I'm like David Attenborough, I'm observing a species that I don't quite understand. You know, and that's okay. And then she goes, well, he drove a motorcycle. And I was like, oh, God, that's not a personality trait, that's a transportation method. You know, women will overlook an unbelievable amount of bullshit if a guy arrives dramatically enough. Like, but he might be my soulmate. No! Stop. He might be one conversation away from starting a militia, and she'll be like, well, he drove a Harley. And I get it. Motorcycles are hot. They are. They're sexy. It's like the right person smoking a cigarette. It's like effortlessly cool. It's like the right person, you know. It's not. Because, you know, I'm sensing a pattern. I'm lesbian David Attenborough. I'm listening and I'm not judging and I'm watching. And so from this point forward, every detail got progressively worse. So I said, was it the World War II obsession? And she goes, no. And I say, was it the weird genetics comments? She goes, no. And I said, was it the Confederate flag sticker on his wallet? She goes, no. And now I'm like running out of options. She goes, you know, the thing that really got me, the thing that really got me was, well, I genuinely think that he hated women. You know, one of those guys. Not the ones who struggle to relate to women, not the guys who are awkward or annoyed with women, but that every interaction with a woman feels like it was like a group project he didn't want to be assigned to. It was like, okay, and it's so confusing because this is 2026. It's okay to be gay. Like, come on. Nobody's making you do this. You know, there are it's like signing up for a job you don't want to do. It's like, sir, come on. Like, we gotta figure something out. But I'm sure you're wondering, like, what made you think he hated women? And so, yeah, I asked that too. And apparently, he spent the entire night quoting a human sexuality textbook. And by the end, he admitted that he hated women's bodily fluids. So I was like, girl, that's the syllabus. That's the course material. That's like being a lifeguard and hating water. That's like being a chef and being disgusted by food. That's like, at what point did you realize that women were going to be involved in this hobby? And suddenly everything clicked. The textbook, the weird comments, the clinical approach to intimacy, the sense that he actually wasn't interested in women. He was interested in the concept of women. Like we were a chapter, a case study. And she said kissing him was like kissing someone who'd read the textbook and nothing else. And I was like, girl! And she was like, what? And I nearly spit out my drink. I was like, you hooked up with him? And she goes, well, he insisted on wearing a condom. And I was like, okay, well, I support safe sex. And then she goes, well, I gave him a blowjob and then got out of there. And I was like, just silence, absolute silence. Because there are moments in your life when your brain just simply stops computing. And this was one of them. So I said, you did what? And she goes, what? As if I'm the one who has a problem. As if I'm the weird one. Like this is like a completely normal evacuation procedure. Like FEMA has some kind of pamphlet on it or something. And I said, hold on, let's review. You think this man might be a white supremacist? He's obsessed with the human sexuality textbook. He's disgusted by women's bodily fluids. And your response was one last act of service and then I'm out. And she goes, well, you think he might be a white supremacist, and I just wanted to leave. And I was like, fair. Technically, that is my diagnosis. But let's continue. Honestly, the answer made perfect sense. Because every woman listening right now knows exactly what happened. And at a certain point, the date stops being a date and it starts being a situation. You stop asking, am I having fun? And start asking, how do I leave? Now, every woman has a different exit strategy. Some might call a friend, some might take an emergency. My choice would have been calling an Uber and maybe going out the back door. But that's why this is her story and not mine. And honestly, as I get older, the less interested I am in judging other women for the decisions that they make dating and honestly anywhere else. The craziest part is that I think every woman in this room immediately understands why she stayed as long as she did. Because we've all been there, not with this guy, obviously. But with the situation that could have ended badly. It could have ended a million different ways. But it ended us with a glass of wine and laughing about condom blowjobs. Which is how I learned that my best friend's exit strategy is a lot more complicated than mine.